In the silence of this moment, I can feel your presence near, holding every broken piece, wiping every hidden tear. When the night was cold and lonely, you were standing by my side. Through the storms that tried to break me, you became my place to hide. Every road I walked in darkness, every fear I couldn't face, you kept calling me so gently. Now I'm wrapped in your grace. You never left me. You never changed. Your love can reach through all my pain. I'm wrapped in your grace, covered in mercy, held by your love each day. No matter how far, no matter how lost, you always show me the way. Your love found me. Your grace that built me. Forever my heart will say, I'm wrapped in your grace. I like when she hit that note. Oh my God, I love it. I love this song. This is a very beautiful song. And I just fell in love with it. And I use it for my intro whenever I'm going to speak on something, especially something that's very deep, spiritual, just so I can just like get things set up for you to take interest in listening to the message. It's the same thing before the pastor preaches his sermon, the choir sings to get you your soul, to get the message to touch you. And the song that they sing can bring the anointing to the message. Now, I wanted to talk about this because I know I've been using this president, William McKinley, because a lot of people don't know about him, especially a lot of young people that didn't learn American history when they were growing up. And their families don't teach them American history. And a lot of families, since we are in this so called immigrant season, it's important that these immigrant children get to learn about the nation they're going to be growing up in, that their parents brought them here in the land of opportunity and freedom, and what really leads to their freedom, and what they need to learn about themselves. Why they're going to grow up in this nation, go to school, and actually work here and build their lives here or whatever. They must learn about their history of this country. You just don't come here just to work and that's it. And to build your life, you have to understand how you build in your life, because you have to learn how to build your life on the foundation of Christ. And America, and I'm saying America is a Christian nation. God watches over this nation. Everything in America has already been shown to you as a symbol of the God of the Bible. The eagle that watches over the sky, which is up there where God's eyes are. Okay? The powerful, most powerful bird in the sky is the eagle. Then you want to look down at the waters and the seas where people came from all different places of the world and different nations in the fight for freedom as Christian crusaders, people that came all places they did wasn't able to worship Christ in the freedom and in truth, without dealing with oppression, without dealing with persecution. And it came from old ancient times. When we go through the Bible, you know it all started way back in ancient places in Asia and Africa and over in those Arab countries, okay, where they practice all these different religions and gods of stone and all these altars they build for the sacrifice children and all kind of things. And this is when I told you the story about Solomon. When Solomon married 700 wives, God gave Solomon the wisdom, and he was his father's successor after he died. But see, the successor was supposed to have been his son Absalom. But Absalom came for revenge to his father because of the rape of his sister Tamar by the brother Amon. You know, it was a family bloodline there. It was something that was going on. And God said to David, "Our sword would never leave your house, David." When David sent his most powerful, sent one of his most faithful servants to die in a hot battle, that David did not go in that battle to fight because David knew he couldn't fight that battle. But because he slept with the man's wife, and he wanted to cover up his sins and his, when the Bathsheba became pregnant, he wanted to just like, first he called the man to come and sleep with his wife, but the man didn't do it because he didn't want to be off guard to guard David's life. Okay, when David pulled him from the battle to go fight, go sleep with his wife, and the man didn't want to because he was basically so more protective over David than to be with his own wife before he was in the, as a servant under David. And so whatever, David just sends him out in the battlefield to die, because the whole purpose for him to sleep with his wife is to make it seem like he got his wife pregnant. David tried to use his power, and he used his power to abuse it. So God punished David for that. Okay, so but still in all, the bloodline of Jesus had to get through. So this whole battle about Christ is the bloodline. We got to continue to keep the bloodline of Jesus Christ. And David had to be king, because without what all of this took place from the beginning is that the bloodline is in children that come from all different nations. That the bloodline, because after David, Solomon, and then Solomon lost all the tribes. He broke up all the tribes. The people scattered, and a lot of them are out there. So Jesus said, "Find his lost sheep." You understand what I'm saying? Find his lost sheep, because there were different tribes. There's the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, the tribe. It's all different tribes. Okay, the tribe of Reuben, from the Israel children. These are the children of Israel. Okay, and in the children of Israel, there was different tribes under the bloodline of Jesus, which is the tribe of Judah. And some are part of the tribe of Judah under those 12 tribes of Israel. So you got to, since all they went and scattered, you got to go find the lost souls out there, the lost ones who lost their connection to him through being scattered after what Solomon brought all these different ancient these what he did to his father's kingdom is he brought in all these different women with different types of religions and married these wives and everything. And some people got caught up in the mess in these religions, and Solomon didn't protect his people. And then it just went on the way it did. But as it was trying to, regain back the power of Israel, whatever, because David was not, Saul was the first king. And then you're going to hear the story from this story I'm getting ready to share from you from a Bible perspective from another channel, is going to tell you what I'm trying to tell you in a little different, the same thing, but you're going to get more of the understanding of it all. When the Amalekites was supposed to have been destroyed by the king Saul, who was the first king of Israel. It was King Saul, and how he lost his anointing to David. because he was disobedient to God to do what God calls him to do, so that these people will not continue to take root, because these were some wicked people. They were supposed to have been destroyed when God told Paul to destroy them and not to compromise. Saul disobeyed God and saved the best of this man's this King Agag, who was the wicked king. And you're going to realize how he was able to attack the Israel's children of Israel, okay, while they were weak and out of power, and they didn't have any weapons. They were innocent. They was out there just wandering in it, and he attacked them, knowing they were vulnerable after they came out of Egypt. And these people attacked the innocent, the weak, and the vulnerable. And God said that was evil and wicked, because they came with no weapons. They didn't come to harm anyone. And these people came, these Amalekites attacked these of God's innocent that was in the wilderness. And God hated that, and God never forgiven them for that. So whenever you see somebody with that kind of wicked and evil in their heart to try to destroy the children of God, okay, and you don't defend them and you compromise with them, God will bring judgment on your nation. So let's listen to the story. This is why I tell the American people how we going against our president and these Iranians, and thinking it's all right to have all kind of different religions and all that stuff in our nation. It's not, because God don't want everything in this nation. Anything that is evil and wicked and don't worship his name is not supposed to take any root in this nation. That's why you got to hold up the Christian sword, and you got to hold up the bloodstained banner in the battlefield for the Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ. Because people don't understand that. You think anything could just come in here and praise any kind of God they want to. No, they cannot. They supposed, if they not coming in here to talk about the God of the Bible, if they not Christians and they don't worship the God of the Bible, they not supposed to take root in the United States of America, because this nation is the nation that God watches over. Let's go to the story.
Most brutal city in the ancient world, the Assyrians, who flayed prisoners alive and stacked human heads in pyramids at the gates of the cities they conquered. God sent a prophet, Jonah, to give them a chance, and when they repented, God forgave them. Jonah chapter 3 verse 10. God forgave Egypt, the empire that enslaved his people for 430 years. The ones who drowned Hebrew babies in the Nile. The ones who ground them down with forced labor under the desert sun until their bodies broke. And yet, God did not order the total destruction of Egypt. He punished Pharaoh, freed his people, and the Egyptian nation continued to exist. God forgave Babylon, the empire that burned Solomon's temple to the ground. The ones who dragged the people of Judah in chains across 700 kilometers of desert into exile. The ones who...
You see, they burned Solomon's temple to the ground. You know why? Because Solomon allowed other gods to come into the nation and lost his power. In the children of Israel, and the lost of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. When God said, don't praise no other God but him. And he allowed these people to come marrying these wives with all these different gods, and they became powerful in his nation, and he took down his temple. Let's go on.
Melted down the sacred vessels of the temple and used them for their pagan banquets. Daniel chapter 5. And even so, God worked within Babylon. He placed Daniel as...
And then he brought the king of Babylon, which was a pagan king, and that's when you're going to hear about King Nebuchadnezzar. And he took all those Hebrew boys and put them in bondage, all the people of the Israel of Solomon, and the Babylon and everything, when Babylon came and took over. And they destroyed Solomon's temple and put those Hebrew boys, Meshach, Shimrak, Abednego, in the fire and furnace, because they came with the heat, they came with their God from the Bible, and they wasn't bowing down to none of those temples and those golden images and idols or anything of that nature. And their names were changed in the Bible because they changed them to Babylonian names. They names from their Jewish Hebrew names, they had other names, but they changed their names so they can erase their identity of who they were. And when King Nebuchadnezzar took power, he wanted the best of them. You know, just like when another nation take over and everything, they want to take the best of the people that were there, and the other ones, they want to eradicate them. That's what they do, and that's why Trump is going as hard as he can with these people up in here and this immigration stuff. And I'm telling you, this is a spiritual warfare, because this all took place before in the history of the Bible in ancient times, and they come in here now to try to destroy the system here in America. And that's why those people like Americans, those who got the lineage and the bloodline here that was came from the soil here, are fighting, and the spirit is fighting from the grave, that these people don't belong up in here, these pagans, and they come in here and they trying to take over this system here, and they trying to overthrow the system here. Listen to what I'm saying. They gonna even look like, some of them gonna even look like you. But let this story keep going on.
Prime Minister, he made Nebuchadnezzar acknowledge his sovereignty. Daniel chapter 4, verse 37. God forgave Moab. He forgave Edom. He forgave the Philistines. He forgave Syria. He punished all of these nations, yes. He sent judgments upon them, yes. But to none of them did he say what he said to one single nation in the entire Bible. To one single nation, the Amalekites, Exodus chapter 17, verse 14. God says to Moses, I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Blot out, utterly, the memory from under heaven. Those words do not appear for any other people in all of Scripture, not for Assyria, not for Babylon, not for Egypt, not for Rome, only for Amalek. And then, as if once were not enough, God repeats it in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 through 19. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you came out of Egypt. You shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. Remember. Blot out. Do not forget. 3 commands in 3 verses about one single nation. And here is the question that very few people dare to ask, the question that should make you uncomfortable, the question that, if you are honest, you are probably already asking yourself why. What did the Amalekites do that was so different from what the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and all the others did? What was so grave, so deep?
The Amalekites are a nation of people that come into a nation to attack you when you are at the most weakest, vulnerable place in your life. Okay? It could be any kind of color people, but it's a certain type of spirit, is what you call the Amalekites. They don't have to be, these are people like those people like in Iran saying death to America. That's like an Amalekite. You understand what I'm saying? A nation you've been going to war with the Israel, children of Israel, and with Christianity and people that's been killing Christians, like they've been doing these terrorist attacks on these people in these other places, in these other places in the world, in these nations, killing the mothers, grandmothers, elderly people, babies, and just people poor and just really can't defend themselves or whatever like that. They vulnerable. Those are what you will call people like them, those who's lost in the wilderness, and people that are weak or whatever. And the Malachites are people that would just come and just kill you just for no reason, and they just have this extremist about themselves, and they just evil like that. Those are what you call Amalekites. In the spiritual world, they just it's being a story told, but you could just identify with them by how they describe their character of who they are. It could be in any color, any race, or whatever. Like people like now, we're going on in Nigeria where they kill those Christians and everything under attack over there, and the government is right along with it because it shouldn't be happening if they had a good government. That they going in there killing Christians, targeting Christians. They're killing children, elderly. Like I said, these are what you call Amalekites, terrorist groups. But anyway, they hide and they break into your nation and everything. Those are what you call Amalekites. Listen to the story.
So irreparable that the God who defines himself as slow to anger and abounding in mercy declared an eternal war against them. Because notice something, God did not say, I am going to punish Amalek. He did not say, I am going to send a judgment upon Amalek. He said, I am going to blot out his memory from under heaven. It is not punishment, it is total elimination. It is the difference between putting someone in prison and erasing every trace that that person ever existed. And that is exactly what we are going to investigate today, step by step, layer by layer, Hebrew word by Hebrew word. Because the answer to this question is not on the surface of the text. It is buried in the original language. It is hidden in details that most English translations over.
And let me tell you another thing. Amalekites are not just only people from other nations. They live right here in the United States of America. And those were he talking about as far as Amalekites that are hiding here in the United States of America that does the wicked things that they do, that harm innocent lives or whatever. Those are white supremacist groups too, like the Klan members. The Ku Klux Klans are also considered Amalekites.
Look. And when you discover it, it is going to completely change the way you understand the justice of God. Let us start from the beginning. Israel had just come out of Egypt. They had just crossed the Red Sea. They had just witnessed the 10 plagues. They had seen the water turn to blood, darkness cover the land for 3 days, and the angel of death pass over Egypt, taking the firstborn of every family. They had seen the most powerful army in the world drown in the sea while they passed through on dry ground. And here, I need you to understand something crucial about the geopolitical context of that moment. Because what had just happened was not merely a religious event, it was a political event of seismic proportions. All the nations of the ancient world had heard about what had happened. Exodus chapter 15, verses 14 through 16, describes it clearly. The peoples of
Okay, now in that part of the Bible, right, Exodus, when you go back to Exodus, this is the time when Moses was bringing his people out of bondage under the cruel and enslaved of being under Egypt. And they were given their reparations to start their new life and build their new homes and live the way that they want to worship their god and everything else like that. So when they was leaving out of Exodus, when they were leaving, Pharaoh was trying to renege and withdraw his from what he gave them. He was trying to come back for their life. But what happened is that God set all kind of things in the way to trap them. He set the fire pillars and everything to keep the horses and the chariots back. And then at that time and everything, then Moses and all of his people, just so all Moses people can be able to cross over to the Red Sea, across the Red Sea. And he helped Moses part the Red Sea where they were able to get through the Red Sea and everything. And and find a place in a new place in a new land to build a new life. And but then Pharaoh still sent his army after them, and when they came for them, they couldn't get past the Red Sea because God already destroyed them. God destroyed them for trying to destroy these innocent people in the wilderness because they had no home, they didn't have no weapons, they wasn't out no threat to you, they were leaving, and you still coming to try to harm their lives. And after they done been in bondage under you for so many years, building your pyramids and, and sculpting out things for you or whatever, and working even in hunger and death and everything. So these people were, going to be free. Again, that's what I'm saying about this stuff with the KKK. You out here, you harming people's lives and innocent people's lives. They we ain't got no weapons. They innocent. They can't fight you with no weapons here on earth. They poor, they broke, they this, that, the other. And you still want to come for their life, but God already gonna punish them. So that's why I say he gonna pluck them out. He gonna show you who they are. He is the most powerful weapon there is that you can have is in heaven. You get these evil, wicked people in power and everything, harming innocent people's lives and going after God's innocent people. And this is the story of the Amalekites. Amalekites ain't got nothing to do with your race. Amalekites are just people that just don't fear God. They just don't fear God. They think they gods on this earth and they think they could just go around and terrorize your spirit and terrorize your life and harm people. Those are Amalekites. It ain't got nothing to do with a race. But they are in every different nation.
Philistia trembled. The chiefs of Edom were dismayed. The mighty men of Moab were seized with trembling. All the inhabitants of Canaan melted away in fear. Rahab, the woman of Jericho, confirms it 40 years later in Joshua chapter 2, verses 9 through 11.
You see, I followed this because he's giving you the content and he's also giving you the scriptures. So you can check in reference for yourself. You don't have to go by what he's giving you, but he's telling you this biblical story. He's giving you illustration, and he's also giving you the text you could go in and read it for yourself. That's the kind of channels I like to follow when I'm reading the Bible stories. It ain't got nothing to do with the color of your skin. He's giving you the illustration of what people seen those people that look like at that time, but it was all of us there. We all black, Asian, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he said when the story happened. Everybody knew. It was all over the world that they attacked these innocent people out there in the wilderness when they was weak and they were hungry, they were poor, pregnant women, pregnant and children and elderly people and everything. That's what they did. And everybody heard the story as it traveled across the nation about who these Amalekites were. But the king of Israel, which was Saul at the time, was given the power from God to kill all of them and to make no compromise with these people. But Saul disobeyed God and compromised with their king. And because he had good livestock and all this other stuff, but he wasn't supposed to hold on to nothing of these people. He was supposed to burn everything and then kill off all their livestock as well. So none of it would have been able to take root. It's just like in America, if you have enemies across America in other nations, you're not supposed to do business with them. Don't even let them come into your nation. Don't even give them visas. That's why they put a block on your visas. If they enemies to the United States, they can't even come here on a visa. They put a block on it. It's called the sanction. They sanction these countries. But people go and take their own risks, like what happened to the young lady, Ashley Janae. She went to a foreign land with a white man alone, or she brought her camera team or whoever part of her team, or was it his team? We don't know. Okay. But these countries were sanctioned. Zanzibar, you out in Tanzania, that was a sanctioned country. And the president already put it out there. Those were red flags right there, not to go and travel that far out of the United States of America into a foreign country. That's why you got to pay attention to your government here, and you got to pay attention to the chief and commander of this nation. Just like David, people had to pay attention to him because he was the king. And whatever the king decree was, the people had to follow, or else they would have been destroyed. They would have either been destroyed within or they would have been destroyed by the enemies. That's how it is. When your king is giving you his command and he's giving you his decree, you are to listen to the king and obey. Obedience is better than sacrifice. But go on.
I know that the Lord has given you the land, for the fear of you has fallen upon us, and all the inhabitants of the land have melted away before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt. And as soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no courage left in any man because of you. Do you understand what that means? After the Exodus, Israel was untouchable. No nation in its right mind would attack the people whose God had just humiliated the most powerful empire on earth. It was as if Israel walked surrounded by a shield of sacred terror. No one dared touch them. No one. Except one. Exodus chapter 17, verse 8. Then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim, without provocation, without territory in dispute, without a threatened resource, without a declaration of war, without ambassadors, without an ultimatum. Amalek came and fought with Israel, and I need you to understand the strategic madness of this decision. They had just seen how the God of this people destroyed the most powerful army on the planet. They had just heard how the waters closed over 600 Egyptian war chariots, and not a single one survived. And Amalek looked at all of that and said, I am going to attack them. It is like someone watching a nuclear explosion and deciding to walk toward the center of the radiation. It makes no military sense. It makes no strategic sense. It makes no sense of any kind. Unless the motive is not military or strategic. Unless the motive is something else entirely. But Amalek did not fight the way a normal army would. They did not stand face to face against the forces of Israel in a conventional battle. What they did was far worse. And to understand it, we need to jump to Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 and 18, where Moses describes exactly how that attack unfolded. And this is where the original Hebrew reveals something that English translations simply do not capture. But first, let me tell you what happened during the battle itself, because it has a symbolism that connects directly with what we are about to discover. Exodus chapter 17, verses 9 through 13. Moses said to Joshua, choose men for us, and go out and fight against Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand. And Joshua fought. But something extraordinary happened. Verses 11 and 12. When Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed. But when he lowered his hand, Amalek prevailed. And Moses' hands grew weary. So they took a stone and put it under him. And he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side and one on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. Do you understand what the text is saying? The victory over Amalek did not depend on the strength of the army. It depended on the raised hands of Moses. When the hands went up, Israel won. When the hands went down, Amalek won. It was not a conventional battle decided by numbers or strategy. It was a spiritual battle decided by the people's connection with God. And Moses could not keep his hands up alone. He needed Aaron and Hur, one on each side, holding him up. Because the battle against Amalek is not fought in solitude. It is fought in community. It is fought with others who hold you up when your strength runs out. And after the victory, God says to Moses something he did not say after any other battle in the entire Exodus. Verse 14. Write this as a memorial in a book, and tell Joshua that I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Write, as a memorial, in a book. It is the only case in the entire Exodus where God commands that an event be written down specifically so it will not be forgotten. And Moses built an altar and called it Jehovah Nissi, which means the Lord is my banner. And he said, verse 16, the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation, from generation to generation. It is not a one-time punishment. It is a continuous war, a war that transcends eras, a war that...
Now, do you understand what I'm talking? This is coming from, let me see what Bible. This is coming from Beyond 2 official channel. It's a Christian channel. I'm not going to stay too long with it, but I just wanted to just introduce you to something from the text of why we can't allow evil, wicked nations to come into the United States of these Americas to try to do any harm to anybody, an American citizen, starting from the American citizens all the way up to the chief of commandment in chief. See, Moses was standing for God too with the law. If you really follow politics, you will understand that everything is made under God's way of how he built his statue for that nation. And he chooses who he wants for that nation for his judgment. And the man that he chooses to be over that nation. See, Moses was the one who brought the law because Moses came out of Egypt. Remember, he was raised in the Egyptian, he was raised in Pharaoh's house as the prince of Egypt. But Moses found his true identity to that he was a Hebrew child. And he was one of the children that was sent on the Nile to be in the Pharaoh's house, for he would be saved and not be destroyed by the Pharaoh's decree, which was to kill every Hebrew firstborn child. They was overpopulated. So Moses' mother had to save his life, and she seen the Pharaoh's daughter, and she just lost her husband, and she didn't have any child, so she sent the child over to the water to the daughter so that she can save her son, and that's how his name became Moses, because he was drawn from the water, from the Nile. And the story goes on. But all of these things had to take place because this is what God was doing, because he was trying to bring the birth of the birth line of his son, Jesus Christ. And that's why all of this stuff was taking place. But there are certain people that do not, God do not, he blocked them out. And those people are considered the people they can hide, and they can even try to hide and say they Christians, and they be hiding and they Amalekite. You see what I'm saying? They can hide in any kind of group. They can hide in any organization just so that they can take root into your nation. They can hide in humanitarian groups. They can hide in your politics. They can hide in your government. They all over the place. But God said to kill that Amalekite, which is that sin that will be a stain and destroy your nation. They wicked, they evil, they kill children, they kill widows, they kill women, they destroy innocent men with no weapons on their hands or whatever. They just go out and kill people just to kill. Those are what you would consider Amalekites. But you see, God forgave all those other nations that enslaved people and did wicked things. God forgave them because they let them go. But the Amalekites, they don't let they try to rise up, and they will try to. They don't think about no God. They don't fear no God. That's what the Amalekites are. That's who are the Amalekites. So you got to hold up the Christian sword. You got to hold up the fight for Christ. Christ is over your life. Christ is over everything. He's the most, strongest, King of all kings, Lord of all lords. In the battle, he's strong in battle. But if you ain't got Christ in your battle, you're not gonna win the You can't win the fight. But you got to know him. You can't have no doubt in your spirit. Because if you do, that's when the Amalekites will come in, and that's when they'll take you down. You see, the Amalekites will do anything to terrorize your spirit just so that they can win a war. They'll burn a cross. Okay? That's the weaken your spirit and your God, but knowing the God of the Bible, they will burn the cross. Okay? That's an Amalekite. An Amalekite is a white supremacist. It is somebody that will run around in hoodies and everything and protect the weak, vulnerable people that they would just kill because they will just do that. That's how they operate. That's a spirit. It's a spirit. Always remember, it's a spirit. But in America, it's white supremacy. But everybody has their terrorist group in every nation of evil. And the stain in America is white supremacy. The wickedness that they would do, and the people they will harm, the most vulnerable, the most innocent. That's what the story is talking about. It ain't got nothing to do with somebody's race. It's what's in their spirit. But with that being said, God bless you. Have a wonderful Thursday night. And if God's willing, tomorrow I will be back with you. But I wanted to just share this part of the story of why America must uphold to be a Christian nation. And with that being said, God bless you. Love you. Peace. And please hit the like button on your way out. Thank